Good evening, everyone. Welcome to class number 29 of Advanced Course in Drones for Development. We are here today again on the second last day of the course. And what a better day to talk about something called smart cities. We have covered disasters, healthcare, agriculture, conservation, and now we are coming into the real development. So we are ensuring that all the development that happens is based on sound sustainability principle. And once you have this in your mind that technology can be used for good purpose, now when you start designing your cities, obviously it will be a smart city which is based on good values. So to talk about that, we have today Corina. Corina is from Philippines and she works for SRDP Consulting. She's the vice president there. And SRDP Consulting is the managing partner for Philippines Flying Labs. So we have one more Flying Labs joining us today. And thank you so much, Corina, for coming here and spending time with my class. We would love to hear your story as not just about how you design smart cities, but even your personal story of how, as a woman, you are making it happen in the drone industry, in the GIS industry, and how adventurous it has been for you. So, Corina, the class is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saxena. Good evening, everyone. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, namaste. So I will start my presentation slide. Okay. Okay. Before I do, can everybody see the presentation?
Corina, we can see the presentation, but we can also see your notes. You want to
Oh.
put it in the slideshow mode?
Yeah, it's in presentation mode already. Okay. There. Okay. One more time.
Yes, this is perfect. This is good.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
Don't change it to
Okay.
presenter view. Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
So, good evening again. So, I'm here to present Smart City GIS, a drone and street view survey application. And this will be the outline of the presentation. We have 5 sections. I will give you a brief introduction on the Smart City GIS. And then after that, we will have a discussion on a particular case study that we did here in the Philippines, the methodology that we used, and the project outputs generated from the smart city. And then I will also discuss some applications of this technology. So my name again is Corina. I'm the Vice President for Business Development. I am also a GIS specialist. And as you can see from the picture, I'm also a Star Wars fanatic. And I've been working with SRDP Consulting Inc. for the past 15 years. SRDP Consulting Inc. is specializes in GIS, in unmanned aerial photography, both man and unmanned. We also specialized in hydrographic and land survey, engineering services, mapping, and consultancy. And in behalf of Engineer Joel Cruz, our president, and the Philippine Flying Labs, we are truly grateful for this invitation and to share our knowledge to you. So before we go to Smart City GIS, there was this one time somebody asked me, what is a smart city? And what came in my mind is when we say smart city, it has something to do with a faster internet connection. And smart city definition, it varies from country to country, from different cultures. A smart city in the Philippines can be different from a smart city in the United States, or it can be different for a smart city in India or Nepal. So it varies, and it's based on the current development of a place, of a city. But what really defines a smart city is it has economic competitiveness, it has better security and resiliency, it provides a livable environment and a better quality of life. When we say smart economy, as we can see now and as we experience during these times, everything is accessible through mobile phones, through tablets, where you can check the current demand and supply trends. You can buy something online, have it delivered to you the day after. And when we say about smart government, a government that has special knowledge at its hands that can help the government to manage and monitor its locality. When we say smart mobility, we can think of a automated transport management systems wherein everything can be controlled over the internet to control traffic, to report accidents in real time. And for a smart environment, we can see smart city as a tool that can help us protect our natural resources, uh, maybe identify potential areas at risk when there's a flooding or there's an earthquake. And it also affects the lives of common people. When we say smart living and smart people, a smart city gives us the capacity to have everything at the palm of our hands, to know what is going on out there. What can I buy, or even what can I learn through e-learning and other web applications. But when we say Smart City GIS, what is it? So let us define Smart City GIS. Uh, Back in 2019, that was last year, SRDP has packaged this service called a Smart City GIS. So it's a tool that will support city governments to better manage and monitor and understand their locality through innovations that give them access to geospatial information. And it has several components, which I will show you later as we go on through the slides. So let's look into a particular case study that we did last year. This is the Vegan City Smart City GIS project. Actually, it's in support of a bigger project called the formulation of a master plan for the urban infrastructure development in the city. It is a government funded project, and the area of interest is Vegan City. It is located at the northern part of the Philippines. It has a land area of 28 square kilometers. And what makes it interesting is Vegan City is a world-renowned UNESCO heritage city because it has these Spanish colonial houses. They have cobblestone roads. They have old churches made of bricks. When you go there, it feels like you are being transported back in time in the Spanish colonial rule in the 1800s. And because of this project, they are aiming to put Vegan City as not just a heritage site, but a city that is innovative and can adapt to the changing times. For the Smart City GIS, we have 5 activities. So in activity 1, we did an aerial survey. The next activity, we created a planimetric map. Then we also conducted a street view survey. And then activity 4, it entails updating their land use data. And the last activity that we did for the project is we created a 3D city model. We will go through each of these activities as we go on. So first, let's go to activity 1, which is aerial survey. So what we did first is we created a flight plan based on the city boundary provided to us by the city government. So it enables us to create this flight plan, and before we go any further, we have to go through step 2, which is to apply for a flying permit and for a military clearance. In the Philippines, well, the Philippine government has strict rules and policies when it comes to operation of drones. You cannot fly unless you have a permit to. So we go through that process, and after that, when they said, okay, they give you the go signal to do the aerial photography, we did the UAV operations with the city government representatives. We also have a military representative to monitor us and to check if we are following the flight plan. And that drone operation or that UAV operation, well, we were able to collect more than 2,000 raw photos. And after that, these raw photos has to go through this image processing using the software Pix4D. So the raw photos combined with the ground control points, these are provided by the National Mapping Agency here in our country. We were able to produce the orthophoto image. So this is the drone we used for the aerial survey. This is the SenseFly EVX. It is a fixed-wing drone. It has a maximum flight time of 90 minutes, and it can cover 500 hectares at 400 feet. So using this drone, we were able to produce an orthophoto image with 10 centimeters resolution. It also has what's called a SODA 3D feature, or SODA. So it enabled us to create a 3D representation of the orthophoto. So here is a sample of the image that we captured in the city. This is somewhere in the city center. Now, activity 2, now that we have the image, the current image of the city, we were able to digitize the different ground features, the visible ground features, such as the building footprints and the other infrastructures. We were able to digitize the road network, that's the road center line and the road edges. We also digitized all the water bodies. That includes the rivers and the creeks. And we also did a land cover mapping. Now that we have the planimetric map, the next activity that we did was we conducted a street view survey using a 360 camera that captures professional high-resolution images and GPS reference videos. So we went all around the city, captured some 360 images, especially those areas that are highly dense. What's the use of these images? I will show you later. Activity 4, it entailed the GIS database development. So we have all these spatial layers, all this information And the next step for us was to develop their GIS database, wherein we integrated everything, every data, every layer that we were able to collect. That includes the 360 captured images and videos. And as a GIS service, we also provided some analysis and we produced several thematic maps. And one of the analyses that we had provided to this project was we updated their land use data. Vegan City, if I remember correctly, their land use data, well, their existing land use map was created 10 years ago, sometime like 2009 or maybe even further away, like 2005. And so much has changed in the course of those years. So using the orthophoto image that was captured by the drone and the output that we had collected from the Street View survey, we were able to identify and generate the actual building uses. That includes what buildings are commercial, what structures are residential, industrial. So we were able to capture those attributes and combine that with the parcel boundaries and the existing land use layer that the city government gave us. We were able to create an analysis wherein combining all these layers, this special method that we use was able to create clusters wherein we can see, like for example, in one particular parcel, what is the actual use in that particular boundary. Let's say back in 2005, that parcel of land before was a residential area. But now, using our method, we were able to find out that that particular property has become a commercial area. So this is the land use map of Vegan City back in 2005. As you can see, there's very little detail. You can see the commercial areas that are red colored. The yellow are the residential areas. And you can see the green areas. These are mostly agricultural lands. So that was back in the day. Now, using our Smart City GIS, we were able to generate an updated land use map of their city, wherein you can see there's a tremendous expansion of residential areas. You can see there are some agricultural areas that has become either residential or commercial. We can already see areas that are institutional use, meaning they are owned by the government or by schools or churches. And if you can see here in the left part of the map, before that was a grassland area or open area. But now, with the project that we did, we found out that it has become a coastal area because this city has a problem with coastal erosion through the years. They are slowly being eaten up by the ocean. After updating their land use data, the last activity that we did for the city was to create or to generate a 3D city model. So when we say 3D city model, these are digital models of urban areas or of the city where it represents the terrain surfaces, the sites, the buildings, even the vegetation, the infrastructure, landscape elements, as well as other objects belonging to that urban areas, and make them 3D. This model adds a vertical component to a traditional two-dimensional GIS, and it is now being used for different applications. They're using it for city planning, they're using it for emergency management, tax mapping. They are also using that for transport planning. And since they are a heritage city, they are using this 3D city model as a tourist attraction. So before, as I remember, back in the days, a 3D city model usually is something that is physical, something that they display at the lobby of a government office. But now they could just project that to a screen, and they can go around, they can roam, zoom in and out of the city as if they are flying over the city. And using the 3D city model and the other layers that we were able to generate for their GIS, the city of Bigan was able to use those outputs, those models into their city planning and development in terms of where to improve areas, where to as I remember, they are planning to construct a theme park. So they can see it now using GIS and the orthophoto image and the 3D city model. What's the best location? Where's the best location to put this planned theme park? They were also able to use this technology for their transport planning because city of Vigan is experiencing heavy traffic because of the tourists. And now that they have a wider view of their locality, they were able to map out and plan some roads which will be converted into a one-way road instead of a two-way roads. They were able to check and analyze why some intersections always have accidents because of either limited space or maybe I think they found out that there are several light posts that are already encroaching the roads. And using the 3D city model, they were also able to do some checks for disaster risk mitigation and management. Because once they have a 3D city model, they can do some simulations. Like Vegan City the nature of that city is it's relatively flat and it's along the coast. Aside from coastal erosion, when it's typhoon season in the Philippines, they are also experiencing flooding. So using the 3D city model, they were able to create some simulations wherein they can identify specific spots or areas where it will be experiencing a 2 meters, 5 meters water level flood. And they were also able to use this model for their utilities management. In the Philippines, most of our electric lines and transmission lines are installed in light posts. And the city of Vigan is planning to develop it into an underground electric utility network. So using this technology and being able to see the current elevation, the slope of their locality, they are now starting to plan where best to put the substations, where best to lay out the electric lines. Not only that, but also the sewage and water supply pipelines. Bigan City, as I've said, is an old city dating back in the 1800s. and they have this colonial time sewage system. And using this technology, this 3D city model, they can now plan where best to put this new sewage pipeline network and where best to put the sanitation stations. And one more application where they can use the Smart City GIS, which is very important in the city of Vegan, is the real property assessment. Before, traditionally, people come in and pay taxes, declare their land area or property areas, but using GIS and using 3D city model, the government is now able to check if the property is correctly assessed, because they can now check in a non-invasive way how big is the property really. It's a non-invasive method, and it saves time just get a quick measurement of a property to give them an idea on what is the real property assessment. So I'm pretty sure they are getting ready and using the updated orthophoto image and 3D city model. Oh, that's the last of my slides. Before I finish this presentation, let me share some of our learnings and challenges in doing this project. Let's go first to the challenges. Well, in this project, we use drone for aerial photography. And one of the challenges that we had was in Vegan City is actually it's not natural challenge, it's a man-made challenge because they have a local airport in the city and it is privately used and by a flying school for small planes. So that was one big challenge because we have to coordinate with the flying school, with the city government on the schedule of flights that we have to conduct in aerial photography so that we will be avoiding any accidents along the way. Another challenge for this project is the weather. Uh, the weather right now is it's not predictable. Sometimes it's sunny, but then the next day it will be rainy and windy. So that was a big challenge for us. But so far in Vegan City, uh, I think fate is on our side. It was mostly sunny during the aerial photography process. The learnings that from this project is when you do mapping either by aerial photography or if you do a street view survey process, there should be a very good coordination. You should, that's one of the things that we learn. It's important that the stakeholders, the clients are really involved in the process because there's a lot more to be learned in a locality than meets the eye. That coastal erosion issue we wouldn't have known that if we haven't coordinated with them, if we haven't talked with them, sit down with them, and have a detailed discussion. And it's also important that there should always be technology transfer in a project, especially if you are introducing a new technology, a new application. Uh, One of the highlights of this project is teaching them how to utilize the 3D city model. And there's a certain satisfaction and fulfillment when you get to teach them how to utilize this for the better improvement of their city. So with that, that ends my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you learned something out of this particular case study. And now I turn you over to Dr. Saxena.
Thank you so much, Corina. I actually got a little nostalgic because I'm missing Intramuros and I'm missing Manila and Quizon. So thank you so much for. I actually, when you were talking, I was in the maps. I was looking at the street view of that you were talking about in Google. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly like Intramuros was. Thank you so much for taking me back to Philippines after a few months of my trip. Okay,
You're
so
welcome.
okay, great. So we have the first question coming from Julie. Julie is from
Mhm.
Kenya. How accurate were the maps produced, and how did you achieve the accuracy for an area of this size?
The maps that we produce, the orthophoto image has a 10 centimeters resolution. Uh, it's quite well for the city's utilization. It was actually great for them to have this resolution wherein they can already see the manholes of the sewage system lines. And how did we achieve that accuracy? Uh, well, mostly it has something to do with the drone we use. The EBX was a big help to us. uh, Actually, the EBX, it has a feature wherein, well, there is a feature there where you don't need to do any more ground control point survey. Because usually when we do aerial photography and to properly process that into an orthophoto image, we usually have this ground control survey wherein we put benchmarks, we identify control points for better positioning, matching of the raw photos. But somehow this EBX drone, it has that feature that lessens that effort, but again, just to make sure that we have the orthophoto right, actually, we still conducted a small GPS survey because here in the Philippines, well, our national mapping agency already laid out these ground control points, standard ground control points, and we have to tie up to those points.
Okay, and then all the GIS companies which are using or which are providing these maps are expected to use these ground control points provided by the government?
Well, it's a standard procedure that we use this GCPs already laid out by the government. Actually, you would have to ask for a what's this? A certification
Mm-hmm.
that you have used this
Oh,
benchmark.
okay.
But if you want it to be more accurate, just to make sure it's accurate, you can also add some more points to your GCP survey.
All right. That's nice. Okay, this is something unusual where government is putting up a benchmark so that all the GIS
Mhm.
companies have to adhere to that benchmark and then put the service in. That's nice. That's different.
Mhm.
And so Phoebe, sorry, not Phoebe, Corina. So Corina, you also said that you did the land-based GIS, wherein you were using the 360-degree camera to capture the pictures of the street. and of the densely populated areas. How much does this effort take you? Like, how much time does it take you to do everything? And how many teams that you deploy?
Oh, for the street view survey, actually, we used only one team. It was just one camera. It's an NC Tech 360 camera. And I think it only took us a week to go around the city.
Hmm.
Um, well, one of the things that we did was, you have to have good timing when you do a street view survey, especially in a city like Vegan. They have traffic problems,
Hmm.
and you don't want to capture traffic in your images. So we conducted this street view survey early in the morning, like around 5:30 a.m. Just as long as there's already light, we started right away. So I
Interesting.
think it took us. I think it took us only a week to
Okay.
finish the whole city.
Does it like appear what Google has? Like I remember before coming to Manila, I was doing the street view of Manila streets and I was able to
Hmm.
see all the traffic that you're talking about, but not as bad. But then I could see the tempos that you have, or the vans which carry people.
Hmm.
I had seen all of that in the street view, so I was like well prepared of what Manila looks like. So your output was similar to that, like one can have a complete view of the place.
Well, our camera, we were able to capture, like, if you can imagine, like if this is my point of view, we were able to capture this wide, 360 wide.
Hmm.
And then just as a precaution, actually we backtrack. We did not just go in a road one way. We
Okay.
have to backtrack again. So it's
Oh.
like one road is two times captured by the 360, just to make sure that we capture the buildings. We can see the signs, uh, especially commercial.
Hmm.
Some commercial buildings, they have these small signages in the city of
Yes.
Vegan. So just to
Yes.
make sure that we catch that, we
Hmm.
have to go through a road like twice.
And these pictures
Uh,
are available to people like Google makes we can see everything on the Google Street View. Similarly, your work can also be seen on an open portal like that.
no, for this project, well, the data is primarily already owned by the city government of
Hmm.
Vegan.
Okay.
So it's not publicly shared.
Okay, I get it. Okay, so we have some more questions from the participants. Why did you use that specific drone, and can we use some other drones?
Oh, okay. So we used EBX Wing because of the SODA 3D feature, less GCP survey. Plus, in addition, that drone can capture 3D reconstructions of the city. So the camera of that particular drone is going like this when it captures during aerial photography. So you can you can capture the sides of the buildings as it fly by. Um, and what's the other question? Sorry.
Can we use any other drone besides EB?
Yes. We also as an option, we also use the DJI Phantom drone, the rotary wing type drone.
Okay.
Uh, when we want to capture a particular spot, an important area, like a government owned area, and if the city permits us and they want us to capture a more vivid 3D reconstruction, we also use Phantom DJI.
All right. Similarly, for software,
Hmm.
Shweta is asking which software application and technology you had used. You mentioned about 4D. Are there any other software that you used?
Okay. For the image processing, yes, we did use Pix4D. But for the 3D city modeling, we use the Terra Explorer Pro to generate the 3D visualizations. And that software, actually, that's the one we use to train the city government in how to manipulate and how to use the city model.
Interesting.
For the GIS, sorry,
Yeah,
for the
please.
GIS, actually we are open to open source GIS. So we are using Quantum GIS, but we are also using ArcGIS. So actually, it doesn't. We don't stick to any particular software. Really depends on the project.
On the project. And please explain about tax mapping and spatial analysis. What is tax mapping
Tax.
and spatial analysis?
Okay. For the tax mapping, well, we were lucky because this city provided us with their parcel boundaries, and it enabled us to use the parcel boundaries, the property boundaries in the update of their land use map, which will be very hard if we don't have that layer. And actually, we did a special method, T-sense polygon analysis, wherein it's a GIS analysis where it can create clusterings. If you have actual building use overlaid on a land use layer and then combine that with a parcel boundary to have a bounding geometry, it can create clusterings wherein it will identify based on the building use what is the majority, as we call it, the majority of use in that particular area. Let's say you have a property and it has 10 houses or 10 structures. Before it's a residential area, but now using this analysis and all these updated layers, overlay them, and using the T-sense polygon analysis, we can have a cluster wherein it's not a residential use anymore, but there's a majority of commercial buildings in that property. So that's how that's how we made the updated land use map.
Interesting. And Mariam is asking, what is an advice that you can give to a startup consulting company when entering this business area?
Oh, actually, I don't know if it's a question for. I think it's better suited for Sir Joel, our president. But from me personally, an advice. Well, I think for me personally, I think the most important thing is you have to have passion in what you're doing. You know, GIS, drone photography, drone technology, or street view technology, all of these innovations, you know, it's especially at this time, it's really fast paced. Everything is changing. Maybe next week there will be a new technology or innovation. You have to have passion to learn and to be open to these technologies. And I think one more is you have to have a determination to do and to finish what you are doing, because consultancy is fun. You know, it can give you a lot of experiences, meeting new people, but you have to be determined, you know, to get some answers from them, get their support. And in exchange, it's a way of helping the community as much as you can. You may not be a president, but at least you can help them specially learn more about their city and what else they can do.
Perfect. Ananda is asking, why was the street view survey done? Was it done for a better mapping and street capture for better navigation? Can the same be utilized for building the 3D model?
Hmm. Well, the in this project, actually, the objective of the street survey is to capture the actual building uses. That's our main purpose. But to update their land use map. But for the 360 camera, actually, it can be used for traffic route planning because you can already see the current condition of the roads. If it's concrete, is it good enough or is it passable? So it actually enabled the city of Vegan to, we were only focusing on buildings, but since it's a 360 image, they were able to see, the road conditions. So I think it was a big help to them in their route planning, transport management projects. Well, I haven't visited them in a while. I hope they're using it.
Great. Julie is asking again, considering that you were flying in an urban area which is inherently high risk because of the presence of people within the city, which measures
Mhm.
did you take to reduce the safety risks?
Oh, um, that's the importance of, if you remember back in my slides, we have to go through this application for a flying permit. Uh, it it involves flight planning. The government, well, our government here, they will check your flight plan. Uh, they will see if there are any interferences in the areas, because sometimes you have this big transmission power lines. Here in the Philippines, we have this giant transmission lines, and it's a high risk for drone photography. So we have to go through all these checks by the government in coordination with the city government because they know more about the locality. And once, well, luckily we passed all through the checks and the monitoring of the government and the city that they let us fly. But uh, remember the one I was talking about? They have a flying school. They have a small airport in the city, so that's a big challenge because we have to coordinate with the tower, the airport tower, just so we can synchronize our flight schedules. So they have their flying lessons at these times, and then they will let us, okay, you can now do your drone photography at this window of time. So it's only a small window of time that they give us for each day. We were lucky enough that the weather was permitting us to fly. So we get lucky. But for the city of Vegan, that's the only problem that we encountered actually, the airport. But it's an old city, so there's not much interference like radar or radio tower, not so much.
Okay, but I'm sure those must have been your obstacles in places like Manila or Quezon, where you must have taken other projects.
Yes, it differs from area to area here in the Philippines. In Metro Manila, there's a lot more things that you have to consider when you're doing an aerial photography, especially if your area of interest will capture a sensitive area. You know, the government here, it has to go through them, all these photos, and they have to check if
Hmm.
you can use that or not.
Okay. So after you have done your flying, you go back to them, show them the pictures, and only then you're supposed to use them. Is it?
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry. I
Sorry,
think
I could, yeah, missed something. I'm saying, so
okay.
after you have done your drone flights, you have to go back to your government, show them the pictures, and only then you get the permission to use it.
Yes, it
Oh,
has to go through them again. That's why we have this military clearance.
wow. So is there a department in the government which coordinates all of this, like first approving the flight plan, then approving the pictures?
Hmm. Here in Philippines, actually, we have this Department of National Defense
Hmm.
that we have to get military clearance from. And aside from that agency, we also have the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP. They're the ones who are mandated to monitor before only man photography, but now they are also monitoring drone photography. They
Okay.
are strictly enforcing this rule that you cannot fly unless you are a certified commercial drone photography operator.
Hmm.
And well, SRDP is actually we made a mark in Philippine history because we are the first commercial certified UAV drone operator here in the Philippines. So
Interesting.
it gave us an edge on applying for clearances.
So, for example, if you have to take the clearances before a project, how many days
Hmm.
before starting the project you need to start the process of getting the clearances?
Usually typically we gave it about a month
Oh,
to go through all this process.
and what do you do in disasters or emergencies? Is there a shortcut?
Ah, that's a different thing. Usually the government will call you if they need you
Oh,
to do
interesting.
some UAV photography. I think it's different with humanitarian efforts, not less, not so much government checking. Well, if it's good, it will be good if they call you.
Yes. And yeah, you're also flying labs, so of course you will be.
Yes.
Okay, so Rohit is asking, were there any consultations done with residents to allow you to use drones and the street view?
Uh, for for that project, we only have as the blessing or the clearance of the city government. Usually, you have to go through them to let you do the survey. But for the residents, actually, they don't mind. Actually, they're very interested, which is really fun. Uh, they don't mind so much about having a drone taking a photograph of their house. Um, well, most of our projects so far, we never did encounter a situation wherein the people are against photography or mapping.
Got it. So there are also cultural differences in different countries. Like some countries, people are really sensitive about privacy, and some
Mhm.
people are open about it. So I mean, it differs from culture to culture as well,
Yes,
right?
I believe so. Yes.
And what is the reaction of the government and locals during and regarding the work?
As I have said, the Smart City GIS was part of a bigger project. That's the master plan, and the city government. Well, they have this. They are a young government, so to say, in terms of the leadership is young. They are more open to technologies and innovations. So at the start of the project, they were really excited and eager to have this updated GIS maps and 3D city model because the ones that they were using was like 10 years, 15 years old. And, you know, there's so much that you can do with an old map, and they're very excited to have an updated one, especially if their vision is to be a world-class heritage city, a tourism hub in the northern part of the Philippines. So they are really excited. And actually, they were with us during the drone photography. They were watching us how we conduct the UAV operations. They were also with us during the Street View survey. They were the ones who were guiding us where to go, what's the best way to cover all of these roads. And as I've said, technology transfer in a project is also very important because that's also the time where you get to explain it more to the stakeholders, not just the city government personnel. They invited the community leaders, wherein you get to discuss this is what was done in the city and this is what you can do using these outputs. So it was a really fulfilling experience because, just talking about the outputs led them to think more of what else can they do in the future. It opens a lot of door to ideas. Yeah, they are a very young city, though it's a Spanish colonial
Yeah.
style city, but
And Anand is
they are being
asking,
led by a young
being
leadership.
a UNESCO heritage center, how do you
Hmm.
balance modernization with conservation?
Sorry, how do I balance with?
Because it's a heritage site, it's a UNESCO
Hmm.
heritage site, how do you balance modernization with conservation?
Oh, Via City, their priority is conservation. They are more into protecting their cultural and heritage areas, and they have this. But they have this one spot or one area in the city wherein all the colonial houses can be found. All these old style houses can be found, and using this technology led them to have a visual representation of these heritage areas to see the extent of improvement or the extent of deterioration because Spanish colonial houses are slowly decaying over the years. So using this, one of their objective is to protect that main heritage area in the city, and it is located in the center of the city. So now that they have this wide picture, spatial picture of vegan, they can now plan to have, they are planning to have this buffer zone of protecting these heritage sites against those areas that should be developed. Uh, Using these maps that enable them to identify areas that can be developed into something more that can contribute to their tourism plans. Like they have these unused rice fields. It's not being used by any farmer. It's just sitting there. So they are planning to have a theme park, but theme park that is related to cultural preservation. So
Interesting.
it's a priority, conservation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Rohit is asking, was a LIDAR survey considered at the start of the project? Any reasons why this technology was not considered or applied?
Sorry, I
LIDAR,
didn't get that.
LIDAR, LIDAR.
Oh, LiDAR. Well, for this project, we didn't use LiDAR uh, when we could have. But what we did was we already used some maps that were produced from LiDAR technology, especially for their flood susceptibility, those areas that are at risk. So we didn't collect primary data using LiDAR, but we used secondary data because it's still, I think it's only 3 years old, LiDAR map, flood maps. So we also consider that in the master plan.
Okay.
And actually it's expensive here. Yes.
It's expensive everywhere. Okay. Are there any long-term monitoring surveys planned using drone as part of the smart city plan? Has the use of drones been institutionalized as part of the city plan development planning?
Hmm. Well, some city governments here in the Philippines, actually, not just city governments, but national agencies have already, have already been using drones. And when we say institutionalized, I'm not sure uh, if they are doing that per se in a city. But in a national point of view, the use of drones here in the Philippines is, closely being guarded and monitored by a national agency. Some government agencies, the big government agencies, they have the freedom to use drones in their activities. Uh, for example, you have the Department of Environment, wherein the use of drones is very helpful in monitoring protection of forest areas. So they already have it in their mandate or in their functions and responsibilities. But for the city government, I'm not sure. Some city government, they have it in their policies, but not so much. Yeah.
Do you see the governments using it more often, like buying the drones for themselves and training their teams or hiring a team within their own departments and like regularly using the drones? Do you see that coming?
Yes, very much, especially after having the technology transfer phase of the project. You can, well, in our experience, sometimes we are in the course of the project and they're already buying their drones, but they don't know how to use it. So it's a big and upcoming trend here, not just an upcoming, but it is already a trend here in the Philippines. We're in city governments, the national agencies, they have already purchased some drones. Um, but most of the users in a government office, they have these GIS offices already established. So they're the ones responsible for doing drone photography.
Got it. So I guess we have come to the end of the questions. Okay, there is one
Okay.
more. You mentioned the issue of coastal erosion. Do you see any application of drone survey in this and any advantages over existing methods that use satellite imagery?
Okay. Um, well, in Vegan City, because it's only 28 square kilometers, the use of drone for the coastal erosion is it enabled them to see the extent of the erosion over the years by comparing the latest orthophoto from their 2005 imagery and comparing them enabled them to see how much area was already lost to the sea. So well, in the city, which is only 28 square kilometers, yes, drone is very helpful in determining the damage already done by the coastal erosion. But for bigger areas, not just the city, let's say we are talking about a province-wide area, a coastal province-wide or an island. I think it's also very useful to have satellite imagery on hand to see the extent of erosion. If I remember in this project, I think we both used aerial photography And then we also check out some images, satellite images, just to see the extent of the damage over the years, like 5 years ago, 2 years ago, and then compare it with what we have gotten from the aerial photography. So you can have them both, satellite and drone.
Thank you so much, Karina. Corina,
Mm.
also as a girl, as a woman trying to fly drones and going out for these surveys which require extensive outdoor traveling, have you faced any challenges personally in doing these things?
Oh, well, for me personally, as a woman, well, it's empowering to be involved in this industry uh, because surveying, land surveying. Well, back in the days, mostly are men doing the survey and the area photography. It's like joining a boys' club, so to speak. But being able to participate and to experience mapping, street view survey, aerial photography in this capacity is very empowering to me personally. Not to mention, as you can see from my video, I'm also, visually challenged. But uh, you know, as a woman, it gave me a sense of strength to be able to participate and to experience these services, to be able to contribute to a city or to the people. Let's just say to the common folks, to be able to help them in any way that you can, uh, maybe not financially or personally, but this project and this industry has led me to help common folks to have a better future in terms of better safety, ensuring resiliency of the city by helping them see what's going on right now and what you can offer and recommend to help them in planning for the next big thing. It's very empowering as a woman.
And yes, your team has so many girls.
Yes, girl power.
Yes, of course. Amazing. Thank you so much, Karina. We ask a lot of questions. We are a chatterbox in that term. And thank you so
No,
much
no
for
worries.
for answering all of this so patiently and so generously. If anybody else has anything that you still want to ask or express, and we haven't addressed it in this lecture, then you can unmute yourself if you would like to. Okay, I guess. So thank you so much, Corina, once again on behalf of the entire class. And
Yep.
we are a huge group here, and yes, we ask a lot of questions. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you also for giving us the honor to do
Thank
this
you.
presentation.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow, the session will be on education and empowerment. Today, the spark which Corina has lit will continue, and we will discuss more about empowering and education, capacity building, technology transfer, and how do we leverage this entire technology to pass on what we have learned to other people and ensuring, a lot to talk about tomorrow. So, thank you so much, everybody. Good night, everyone.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye.